Welcome back, Financial Issues. 866-300-9298. I'm sorry, Devin and I were talking. I was just laughing about. So we were talking about global warming. I mean, we don't want to talk about the economy. We're talking about global warming. Anyway, 866-300-9298. If you're away, and we're going to get right back to the phones. Let's take a quick look at the markets. The Dow is up 3, Nasdaq's up 10, the S&P barely up. So that's where we are right now. 10 o'clock, we're going to get out existing home sales for the month of January. So that's going to be a very interesting numbers. So, if it comes out better than expected, or if it even meets expectations, and expectations are calling for it to be lower than it was for the month of December. So if it even just meets expectations, everything will be fine. I don't know why, just because that's the way it should be. I would assume if the number comes in considerably lower, that that'll not weigh well in the markets. Anyway, let me go to Kathy. Kathy calling us from Arkansas. Hey, Kathy.
Hello, Dan. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
My husband and I have been listening to your program for a long time and have been partners now for a little over a year. And in the beginning of 2013, we prayed about and decided on a small amount of money that I would use to invest, to learn, basically, the things that you are teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been, doing pretty well with that, and have a question about that I'd love to hear your comments on, and then I have another question related to that.
Okay.
I tried to follow your asset allocation models, and because the amount of money that I was investing to learn with is small, my pieces of the pie are also very small.
Mm-hmm.
And so in looking at when to sell or when to hold, and looking at the fees involved with buying and selling, that, of course, impacts that whole cash flow part. I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Sure, I do. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, along with that, Dan, we are, my husband and his brother and my sister-in-law and I are heirs to his aunt, who's 94 years old, and as we've been working with her through her finances this year, have found that she had a considerable amount of money sitting in cash that we're now having to figure out what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And we personally have an IRA with one of the a large brokerage house, and our financial manager there has been talking with us about how to manage this money for our aunt, really with the view of handling it as though it were our money, since it's going to far outlive her. Mm-hmm. And I guess my question is, looking at the small amount of money that I've been learning with, and then having this large amount of money that we're having to make decisions about how to handle, at what point would you recommend that we turn that over to a professional rather than handle the investing on our own? Mm-hmm. I did pose to our financial manager the question about investing in things that were that had our worldview in companies that were biblically sound, and he explained that even though he shares our worldview, that in investing and working with money managers, that's very difficult, nearly impossible. So I just wanted to hear your advice and your comments on both ends of the spectrum, how to handle asset allocations on a very small scale, and then also, at what point does this need to be taken over and handled by someone who knows the financial world better?
And before I do that, Kathy, are you guys? Do you have a relationship with your aunt?
Oh, yes.
You talk. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes,
so a couple things. Okay, so a couple things I would say is that, and very, very important, and this is important for everyone listening. 99.9% of financial advisors will tell you that it's either impossible or very difficult to do. And that is the very first thing out of their mouth. I've been doing it for 32 years, and I will continue to do it. And did it when I was managing hundreds, $900 million and with my trust company. So it's not impossible. It's very doable. It's a lot of work. You can't be lazy, and you got to be willing to, do a little bit, obviously a little bit more work. But more importantly, it means that if you are a financial manager that is like so many, and you have that herd mentality where you're just following somebody out there that you think is a leader that you can't even see because you're so, there's so many sheep in front of you, then it does make it impossible to do it. So I would say this to everybody: do not waver. Do not waver. Do not ever be talked into, and do not ever change on your convictions. Because in my opinion, now that you just can't waver. The idea of giving money because someone says that it's impossible to a company that is supporting abortion is just not even, shouldn't even be on your radar screen ever, no matter what anybody says. So that's number one. So do not waver from that. At what point in time, the one thing I was going to say to you about your aunt, right now, an ideal situation would be, and I don't know what kind of relationship you have with her, but the ideal situation would be to talk to her about gifting and the importance of saving some taxes maybe or whatever to get some of that money out of her estate. And, so the rule of thumb is that if you gift some money to somebody, and then you die within 5 years, then the gift gets prorated based on, how many years there is between the time you got it and, the date of death. So there's some taxes that get prorated, but either way you could save some taxes. But the other side of that is it just makes good sense, because even if you don't avoid the tax, it helps you get some of that money into your account so that you can start working with it. I would not be in favor or wouldn't recommend to anybody that they start, if they're managing an account of a person, that their mother or anybody else, that they would start managing it as if it were their money. I just, I don't know. I wouldn't do that. I just don't think it's necessarily the right thing to do. I think that you manage it as if it is your mother's or your aunt's or whoever's money. But if you can, by way of gifting, get some of that money, then I think it's a good idea. So I think you said there were 4 of you. So technically you could get $28,000 each, $14,000 each, $28,000 for you and your husband, and $28,000 for the other two people. And you could get that out of the state of cash, and then of course you can manage that any way you want. I would suggest that you talk to her about that and see if that's a possibility, because it just makes a lot of sense. So, and when you do that, I would write 4 separate checks. So I'd write a check to you, a check to your husband, a check, 4 separate checks for $14,000. And you can't gift more than that. You can, but then you have to pay a gift tax. So do that. If she's still with us in next year, if we're still here next year, hopefully we won't be, but if we are, then, you can do it again in January. So I think that makes a lot of sense. If your aunt would be amenable to that, I think that's what you ought to try to do. So, but having said that, now about your asset allocation model, it's understandable that it's small, and there will probably be some parts of the allocation model that you might leave out because of it's a small amount. Now, but if you haven't done that, I give you a lot of credit, because I think that's the better thing to do, particularly in your situation, because your asset allocation model has been established. And even though it's, it's a relatively small amount of money, you have it established. So you're prepared when you get an inflow of money to be able to start, distributing that and keeping account of that. At what point do you turn over this money to a professional advisor? I don't think there is a point that you have to reach a certain point. I think it's purely 100% based on comfort level. And if you are 100% comfortable with an advisor and you feel very comfortable with what they are doing, then it's always a good thing, to have a professional advisor doing it, unless you just love doing it, and you're willing to spend the time, the little bit of time that it takes to do it, then that's fine. But so I don't think that it's based on any kind of amount or any kind of a time. It's just based on trust and, your comfort level with doing that. On the same time, if you're very comfortable with you being able to do it, listen, the idea should be that you're not entering into, even if you're doing it yourself, you're not doing it yourself so that you might be constantly buying and selling. That's not the goal. The goal is that you develop a strategy and that you forget about it. You're not worried about it. You're just leaving it alone. Your strategy is set. You may want to look at reallocating based on whether the portfolio was up or down on a regular basis. But, you develop your strategy and you stick to it and you don't worry about it. So it shouldn't be, it's a lot of work in the beginning, but it shouldn't be as time goes on. So I think it's just a matter of comfort and trust with, turning this amount of money over. So I would be very cautious about doing that, but I really do think that's really all it is. So I don't know if that helps you, but I think that might give you some insights. But I would continue with your asset allocation model just like you're doing. I mean, if there are some right now, if I were doing it, I'd probably say, you know what, I'm going to lean a little bit heavier in the energy sector piece. So rather than put a little bit in this one particular sector, I'm going to use that and just kind of build up my energy sector. That would be fine. I don't have a problem with being overweighted in one area if it is, energy sector or something that makes sense for you and for the economic time. So I don't know if that answers everything, but might give you some insights.
That does. That helps quite a bit. And so really, whether it's $10,000 or $500,000, then you think it would be perfectly okay to handle the investments ourselves? I do, but that's, I would be the only one that would tell you that. But yeah, I do. Yeah. I think it is because because you're not doing it on your own. Is why I say that. Right. And we have talked with her about it, and she has already begun doing the gifting.
Oh, good. That's great.
And we have moved all of her cash assets into an irrevocable trust, and so we have those protected.
Good.
But it's just sitting in a money market right now, and it's like, okay, what's the next step now that we've gotten everything out of all of these little pockets where we've found it and got it all together? Now, where do we go from here? And that's where we were.
Listen, here's what I say, Kathy. You've done a good job. You've got it all together. It sounds like she has a significant amount of money. Preserve it. I mean, it is silly at this point in the economy to be, worrying about taking some risk. You're not in any hurry to get this invested. Let's see what this year brings. Let's see what. Well, I mean, we may know in the next 6 months, but let's see where things go. I would just leave it right where it is.
Yeah, and she has income sufficient to cover about 65% of her monthly expenses, and so we know that we've got to have all of this there to take care of the shortfall for her needs. But we also know that it's going to far outlive her, unfortunately.
Sure. But yeah. But, well, I think you're doing the right things, and I don't have a problem with you doing it yourself because, again, you're not buying and selling. I know people. I talk to people that are saying, "I'm just going to put it in Timothy, 2-3 mutual funds in Timothy, and forget about it." I mean, that's fine too. I mean, I just think that you're on the right track. At least you are. You have that asset allocation model, and you're not doing it yourself. You're getting. Of course, I'm going to say this, but I think you're getting good, solid advice and a strategy that is not only biblical, but I think it'll be good for you in the long run. I've got to run, Kathy. Thank you so much. Appreciate the call, and I'm glad that some help to you. 866-300-9298. Folks, I'm Dan Celia. Financial issues. We're trying to help people be the best steward they can be with all that God has given them. We're talking about the economy, and we're helping you. And yes, we are talking a little bit about politics as well.